Welcome to Above Par. I'm your host, Kathy Hartwood. I show you how to take more of your talent to the golf course without practicing harder, taking more lessons, or buying new equipment. I show you how to end the frustration of underperforming so you can start playing to your potential. This is where you are going to learn how to think above par so you can play below par. Let's get to it. Hello, my golf friend. Welcome back to Think Above Par. Hope you're having a beautiful week. Today I have a episode. I was on a podcast, Kelvin Kelly's golf podcast, which is a podcast about golf instruction and performance. And he had me on as a guest. It was such a great conversation that I wanted to share it here with you so that you could have a listen. But I also encourage you to go check out his podcast called Kelvin Kelly. I'll make sure that I have a link in the show notes. But without further ado, here's my conversation with Kelvin about mental golf.
So I have a journal too that just got released up on Amazon that I put together. It's basically a mental golf journal. So it goes through the process of learning to, be more in control of what you think on the golf course, learning the things and discovering the things that keep you back. And I walk people through it and that hold you back. I walk people through it. I give an introduction in the beginning about what to do and the steps to do it. And it's really just a mental golf journal. And it's great.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I always talk about journaling on my other podcast. Is it just like your weekly, like a normal, like just highlighted throughout the weeks? And is it like a morning, night? How's like the book structured?
Yeah. So I introduce why you want to do it. And I teach people how to self-coach in that. So I have a method that I call STEAR. And so inside of that, it is helpful. It is useful to know the method of STEAR, but I give a breakdown of it in the beginning. So there's 5 steps that if you do them every day, definitely do them before you go play in a tournament or something like that. But it's the habit of doing it is going to be so useful to find thoughts that don't serve you or ways that you have beliefs that are holding you back. And so you do a brain dump, you get your thoughts out. Maybe it's about, and I have 3 different pages of prompts. I have prompts about golf and golf events and tournaments, and then yourself, just day-to-day stuff. Like, let's say you're not playing golf tomorrow, but you can always work on yourself and your self-worth and your image and your beliefs about yourself. And so there's prompts if people want them, but really what you do is you go through and dump your brain out and you look for thoughts in there that don't serve you, because we don't hear what's inside of our brain until we get it out onto a piece of paper. And a lot of times what people do and where they get stuck is they try to solve the problem inside of their head. And really what happens is we just become more overwhelmed and confused. So as you start writing, you'll notice some wonky thoughts in there, like, I never win tournaments. Like, why the heck did I sign up for this event? Well, that's a problem. That thought is going to become a self-fulfilling prophecy if you don't clean it up. And so I call it like cleaning a junk drawer. Like if you had a junk drawer at the house and you wanted to clean it out, we want to do that with our brain and be really more self-aware. And that's the biggest skill that someone can have, is building up that skill of self-awareness, because the more self-aware you are, you find the things that are holding you back. And a lot of times people don't want to look. And what happens is that when you write it all out onto a piece of paper and dump it out, whatever term you want to use or one wants to use, it doesn't matter. You're just like, when I coach people, I'm a verbal journal. I pull the thoughts out of them and hear them. But when they're on their own, they get to write them out and be their own coach, so to speak. And so I'm teaching them how to coach themselves when they don't have a mental coach or access to a mental coach 24/7. Just like if you're going to teach golf, you don't want someone being so reliant on you that they can't figure out how to get around a golf course on their own, right? I don't think that's a very good instructor that keeps someone reliant on them. I know when I played for a living, I did not want to rely on my instructor. I wanted to figure out why the heck, if I was in the middle of the round, I wanted to know how the heck to straighten out my ball flight if I needed to. And so anyway, so you go through and you dump that out, and then you find some things. You go through the STEAR method of finding some unintentional thoughts in there and creating some intentional thoughts, and just practice doing that. And as you practice doing that, you get quicker at it and better at it. And the reason for that is that, so then when you're on the golf course, the challenging part about managing your mind on the golf course is time. Right. So a lot of people can sit down with a journal and take 10 minutes, take 20 minutes, whatever you want, figure out what thought's not serving you. How are you feeling? Like, what are you doing when you feel that way? And start building up that self-awareness. On the golf course, you have a minute, you have minutes, like it's your turn to hit, like, gotta go. And someone's like, I'm still like ticked off, like from the last shot. I still have anxiety that I'm worried about the water up there, but it's your turn to swing. Right. And if you don't know how to manage that, process it, pivot, I call it mentally pivoting, then you're going to be at the effect of your brain, right? Your swing is going to get trapped behind these negative emotions. And you're wondering, what the heck is wrong with me? I could do it on the range. I can't do it on the golf course. So the skill is to learn how to manage your mind anywhere, because we have one brain. It's not a golf brain. It's how you do one thing, you do everything. So we're doing this off of the course in our day-to-day life. So take some time, learn the process, give your brain evidence that you can do it. And then we got to do it faster when we're on the golf course. Right. And so usually though, as a golfer, you're going to run into typical patterns. Like people are going to have worries about, missed shots. They might have fear. They might have anger issues. They might have a lot of disappointment and shame where they beat themselves up. So it usually runs into buckets. I call them buckets of like categories of things that you get to work on. But back to the journal. So you go through that process of thinking intentionally. And then there's a few more steps in there. I encourage people to build confidence is to make a decision that day and follow through. And there's a decision tracker in the back so that you can see evidence how you make decisions and follow through, because that's about building confidence. Confident people are decisive, right? Because the opposite of decisive is indecisive, which is doubt. So it helps build your confidence so that on the golf course, you can use it on a golf course. It's like, it's an 8-iron. I'm not going to doubt that it's an 8-iron or a 7-iron. I'm going to make a decision. I'm going to have my own back, whether it was right or wrong. And you've built up that skill. And then there's gratitude in there, and then things to be grateful for. It's really a good habit to be into. And then about a new belief that you want that day. And I have a little place in the beginning, or just a new belief that you're working on in the beginning, to keep track of the new beliefs that we want to have that we currently don't have, so that you get to see them all the time. Because the more that you see them, and the more that you say them, and the more that you feel them, say them with feeling, then the quicker that they become your own.
Do you need to get your book first before the journaling, or the journaling makes sense if somebody gets that first?
I think the book is helpful if you know the process of STEAR. I explain enough of STEAR in there that a lot of people can use it and take advantage of that part. Even if you don't know what the heck you're doing, like even if you fiddle with it, you're still so much value out of the journal because of the steps and just getting in the habit of doing the journaling, finding 3 things to be grateful for, doing the decision tracker to build confidence, and then, creating some new beliefs that you want to ingrain in your brain that you currently don't have.
And it's STEAR. You offer a program on your website as well that people can
Yes.
take?
Yes.
Okay. And that's where people learn about STEAR and.
Yeah. So you can learn all about STEAR through my programs. I have Master Your Golf Brain and Unleash Your Golf. And in my private coaching, that's where we focus on. And I also have a membership where where people can get some coaching in a group setting on some of the things that pop up for them. So I have lots of different ways that people can learn how to master their brains.
Yeah. How does coaching work in your field if you're a student? I'd understand how a professional LPG or PG Tour player would work when they reach out to you. What about a mid-handicap and someone says, hey, I'm really struggling with, they realize they're struggling with their mental game on the golf course and they reach out to you. Curious what a session is like with you if they say lived out here in California. How does that work?
Yeah. So I have clients all over the world, and I have clients who are tour players and 40 handicaps. I have clients as young as 12 to in their 80s. And so the criteria for wanting to work on your mental game is 2. Like, one is that that the mental part, like your brain, basically your thoughts and your emotions, are getting in the way of your performance. You're underperforming. You can do it on the range, but you can't do it on the golf course, right? And you know that you're getting in your own way and you want some help with that. That's a reason, right? You don't like the results that you're creating. Another reason could be that you just don't like the way golf makes you feel. And so for people, let's say, let's just work a little bit older, let's say they're retired and they're living in a golf community and golf is their life and they're miserable playing the game of golf, but they don't want to give up this part of their life, right? How you feel about golf is mental, right? How you feel at the end of the round, how you treat yourself at the end of the round is also mental. So I help people shift the way, like their performance and getting out of their own way. I help people manage their minds around anxiety and fear. A lot of times it goes off of the course. I have people who show up for coaching and we never talk about golf. We end up going and just talking about their anxiety or relationships. And because of that, they also learn how to manage their mind, and then their golf gets better. And I have people who their golf gets better and they're like, oh my gosh, this is affecting my off-course life, my home life, my job, and my career and all those things, and my relationship with myself, because it's all, the way I coach it is it's all connected. So you don't have to be a tour player. And this is such a big deal that I want people to know. You don't have to be a tour player to work on your brain. It's such a huge part of of the game of golf. People spend so much money taking lessons, so much time hitting golf balls, so much money on equipment, and then they go and they, TrackMan numbers are like on point and they got a pretty little swing. It's a moot point if you can't manage your brain. It's a moot point as you're wasting your time and energy. If you're going to take that onto the golf course and you're still going to have like negative thoughts, or you're going to, which we're always going to have negative thoughts. So that's probably wasn't a great example. But if you're going to swing with pressure or with fear or with anxiety, and you're going to beat yourself up, and especially if at the end of the round you treat yourself like crap and shame yourself, it doesn't matter how many balls you hit. Keep going. Yeah. Eventually, you're going to figure out that you got to figure out how to get out of your own way.
You mentioned the two are connected, and they definitely are. Did you do any work outside of golf and psychology, and then specialize in golf? How did you end up specializing in golf?
I did a lot of thought, basically thought management coaching, life coaching. I'm certified in that as a player. So I played golf for a living, and I taught golf for a living. Right. So I did both of those things for a long time. I taught golf and Class A member of the LPGA. But the biggest thing for me was that I always, out of all those years, I always felt like I was underperforming. And I played in a lot of different tours all over the world, and my brother played on the tour his whole life. So I was like, why can he do it and I can't do it? My dad was a great club pro. He played as a club pro in a lot of championships or champion tours or championships, PGA and US Open. And I was like, why can he do it and I can't do it? Like something was wrong with me. And I went to some very well-known sports psychologists who helped me, but basically they didn't help me in really what I needed. It wasn't solving my problem. I still was feeling like I was getting in my own way. I always tell the story. I mean, I could hit 15 greens and shoot 75 with the best of them over and over and over again. And so but that feeling at the end of the round and how I was going to treat myself was just weighing on me the whole round. So that burden, I call it like a weighted raincoat that we play with, I didn't know how to lift that. So it didn't matter if I had a great pre-shot routine. Pre-shot routines are helpful and useful. And a lot of times some of the mental coaches that I went to helped me with my pre-shot routine, which is a wonderful thing. Or like just, going through certain steps before you hit a golf ball. That's great. And that's useful. But it was how I was treating myself and what I was making golf mean about myself that no one addressed for me. And my going to sports psychologists that I didn't figure out until much later when I was teaching for a living. And I had quit golf for 10 years really, and just raised my kids. And I came back to it, but I had an epiphany walking when I did some coaching. I got coached myself, and I was like, this is what I needed when I was playing golf. And I went out and I tested it on myself. It wasn't a tool. It was similar. STEAR is similar. It's just what I learned and got trained in, but I created a different acronym for golf. But I said, all right, let me figure this out because putting was my issue. And so let me figure this out or try this and let me be my own guinea pig. If these life coaching skills on how to manage your mind and your thoughts and your emotions will work on the golf course. And in 10 days, I turned my putting around by just shifting the thought. And it was something that I could have used since I was a junior golfer. And I didn't realize that those were what were getting in my own way. And then, of course, it was dealing with really my relationship with myself and how I treated myself about my numbers that I shot that made a huge difference. And so I got top 50 teacher award and I quit teaching golf the next day. And I started helping people manage their minds because I knew that I've fixed a lot of swings and grips and postures and planes and chipping and bunkers. I've done all that, but really the biggest impact I could have on someone's life was helping them manage their mind.
Those sessions with people that end up reaching out to you to work on their golf game, how many of those sessions do you think end up leading to work off the golf course? I'd imagine a lot, right? Say relationships or, like you said, image, their self-image. I would imagine it ends up being more just almost normal therapy sessions.
Yeah. So I don't do one-off sessions. I do a series of them because just like changing your golf swing, you're not going to get it done in one day, or you want people to come back and because old habits creep back in. And so it's usually a package of about 12 calls because the sweet spot is about 9 where things start clicking for people. Sure. It can vary, but I know that that's the best value as far as someone getting results. And so like lasting results where they know what they're looking for. They know how to manage their mind, their thoughts, their process, their emotions. And inevitably, and I tell them in the beginning, I want them to work on things off the course because we don't play golf every day. So it doesn't mean I don't want the person who's coming to me, I have a tournament tomorrow, help me with my mind. That's like going, I have a wedding tomorrow, help me lose 10 pounds. It's just not going to happen, right? So the time to work on it is now. It was yesterday. It was, for me, it was when I was 16, right? And so it's because you learn the skill of how to manage your brain. Then you have to have patience in shifting a thought. So you will discover thoughts that don't serve you and that are beliefs. And when they're a belief, they're challenging to change. It takes repetition and it takes consistency and it takes persistency, right? So a coach, someone like me, is going to help you stay on track. Otherwise, your brain wins. The negative part of your brain is going to win and talk you out of it. And so in the process of doing that, usually what happens is as our brain starts opening up to seeing things differently, people will go, "Oh my gosh, I didn't realize this was going on for me." Or, "Oh my gosh, I didn't know I'm doing this over here." Right. So I tell people one of the ways that you can really, a great question to ask is, let's say if on the golf course you were, let's say ticked off and you were pissed off for like 5 holes because you missed a shot, right? And you were beating the crap out of yourself. I would say, where else do you do that? Where else in your life do you do that? Do you sit there and get stuck in a negative emotion for an extended period of time and beat the crap out of yourself? Because you don't just do it on the golf course because you have one brain. You wouldn't cheat if you knew that beating the crap out of yourself was not effective and not serving you, you wouldn't just decide on the golf course it's okay. You're doing it in other places, right? It would stick out like a sore thumb to you otherwise. So that's how we end up finding different areas of our life where we can, get some growth and some shifts and some change, and just people live and create better results wherever they are struggling or getting stuck.
Yeah, I don't think people realize how much the off course affects their actual game for sure. You mentioned
100%. Yeah, I'm going to tell you, and this is going to sound slightly maybe insensitive, I don't really care about people's golf games. I mean, I do. Sure. I play golf, right? It's like, it's not about that. It's a number. It's a number. Yeah. It's a fleeting moment that you had one day. I love it. Like, I love all the success. Don't get me wrong, but it's not about that. Yeah. I want you to know, I want you to be able to take what got you there everywhere in your life. That's like my greatest pleasure that I get, where they can start seeing like, oh my gosh, I have people on my call, some of my group calls, who come in like really choked up and in tears, where they realize for the first time they could manage their anxiety anywhere because they could manage it on the golf course. Or people pleasing is a big thing that people can struggle with on the golf course, and they realize how they could take it somewhere off the course. And they get emotional telling me these stories. It had nothing to do with them shooting the lowest round of their life. It was about they like finally felt like they were in control instead of being at the effect of their brain. And that's what it's all about. Or I should say, they shift their relationship with themselves, because that's really what it boils down to. Like golf and like how you treat yourself at the end of the round is really about your relationship with yourself.
Is mind dump just the art of journaling? What?
Yeah. I mean, you can say
that term a couple times on your podcast.
You can say it a lot. Like I'm going to say, honestly, I had a lot of pushback at the term journaling. I'm like, I'm not journaling. I don't want anybody to read what's in my brain. I sometimes don't want to know what was in my brain. So think of it more as like, you're going to take a junk drawer and dump it out. Like, okay, let's see what's in there today, because it doesn't matter, because you only hear a portion of your thoughts, right? They're kind of like, when we get going in a little bit of a negative pattern, we don't hear them all. Right? So there could be in the background this little subtle thought that is the reason that you're struggling on the golf course. It could be, I always get off to a bad start, or I never can put 2 good rounds together, or I don't finish very well, or I always have a blow up hole whenever I play, or I always seem to finish second. Like that, it seems so innocent. And it seems like it's true, and it might be true. Like you can sit there and argue that I have so much evidence, Kathy, that this is true. And I would say, yes, you might, but it's because it's become a self-fulfilling prophecy for you, because our brains want to be right. So if you say, I always get off to a bad start, you're going to go double and go, see, I got off to a bad start. Like anytime any of your listeners, if you hear yourselves go, see, like, or here we go again, you have a thought error in your head that you want to look at. Right. So for mine, I had this thought that I'm always going to struggle with my putting, and putting's the worst part of my game. Now, putting being the worst part of my game was true. If something's going to be at the bottom, right? It was my putting. It was so not useful for me to tell myself that. And so what would happen is I would go out and I'd hit a wonky putt. I'd take one, just a little wonky putt, like just didn't feel right. And I go, see, here we go again. And then I'm done for the rest of the day, right? Because I proved to myself my thought that I had in my head. And that was the thought and the belief that I shifted in 10 days. And just, I had people telling me like, what happened to your putting? Now, I'm not going to tell you that if I take time off of those thoughts, that I don't battle those old thoughts. They spend a lot of time in my head. So, but I know how to pivot quickly from those and shift them.
What is it about journaling that makes it so effective, as opposed to just say thinking about it in your car on the drive home? Like, is it the act of writing it down, or it slows your brain down and you think more clear? What is it about actually writing it down on a piece of paper? I've been asked that. Actually, somebody asked me that. I didn't know the answer to it. My answer was, well, that's why I wanted you on here. I wanted to ask you.
Yeah. So writing it down does a couple things. One, you get to see the thoughts that you don't hear. Right. And so we think we can hear them, and you can't solve a problem inside of your brain. You just create more confusion. So when you get to see them down onto a piece of paper, one, it feels so much better to get it out of your head. Right. So it doesn't seem like it's that impactful, but being able to write it and get it out of you, you feel so much more relief. Okay. Oh, thank God I got that off my chest. Right. It's kind of like if you have someone, let's say I was coaching you, I would ask you questions, and I would be your verbal journal. I would ask you more questions. Tell me what else is going on. Tell me what else you got going on in your head, right? For instance, let's say, and I would get a sampling of what you got going on. I know kind of questions to ask to hear what's behind them sometimes, but then I get to help you see those thoughts in there. Is that serving? Is that true? Right? Is that something that you want to, why are you thinking that? Right. And so when you get them out onto a piece of paper, you'll notice one's like, I can't even believe that that's what's in my head. I can't believe I'm thinking that. Right. So it is a huge relief. You also get to get it out of your head, so that being the relief, but you get to see what's in there. Right. And when you get to see what's in there, then you can make a shift. Because the only thing you really have a lot of control of is your thoughts, what you choose to think. And if you don't know what your thoughts are, right, then you can't shift them. And we think we hear them all in our head, but we don't. All we do is we start asking questions like, well, why am I thinking that? Like, what else is going to go wrong? Really what we're doing is asking questions in our head. We're not saying the thoughts that we have as much as we do when we write it down onto a piece of paper.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I've been doing it for a few years now. It's been life-changing, both on and off the golf course. I try to do it morning and night, but I get all my students to recommend it. I don't know whether they do it or not. Some of them do, and for sure off the golf course. And it's like I've mentioned on here before, it's so easy to do. Anybody can do it. Just a piece of paper and a pen. What are some other ways just to get the ball rolling, say before somebody does your course or reads your book? What are some other, maybe off the top of your head, ways to, I'll say, get better at life, to obviously, because the two are connected, other than journaling, that you get people, say somebody's going through extra anxiety right now, or I don't know, going through a bad relationship, which is obviously going to affect your golf game. Other than journaling, do you have any off the top of your head, whether it be exercising, getting out on the golf course, you recommend? And if I were coming to you for a first session and said, hey, my life's spinning out of control right now, blah, 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 obviously it's affecting my golf game, and I don't know, my confidence is down as well. Anything other than journaling, maybe, that you have off the top of your head for somebody listening?
Yeah, well, we need to learn how to process our emotions, right? So we get stuck in negative emotions, and there's 4 things that you can do with an emotion, right? You can react to it, right? So we could be anxious and like freak out and, set our hair on fire kind of thing. We could, anger would be a good example too, like where you could throw a club or, just start screaming at people. This is where we have an emotion and we react to it. We can resist emotions, which means that we're noticing I'm angry, but I'm not going to be angry. It's like, oh, I'm not angry. I'm not angry. I'm not angry. I'm not angry. We're going to keep it down. People do that with anxiety. And that's what happens is when you resist anxiety, that turns into panic attacks, right? Because we've resisted it like a beach ball underwater. You're trying to hold this beach ball underwater and you feel like you're controlling it. But really what you're doing is you're kicking the can on when you're going to deal with it. And you're either going to keep building it up like you're shaking a bottle of soda water, or you get to deal with it and process it right away. Right. So you can, so as it react, you can resist, or you can avoid an emotion. So avoiding an emotion would be, I don't want to be disappointed, so I'm not going to sign up for the club championship. So I'm going to avoid disappointment. I don't want to be embarrassed because I'm not hitting it very well, so I'm going to decline this game today. Right. And I'm going to drop out.
Sure.
So those are ways that we can avoid emotions. Now, off the course, a lot of ways that we avoid emotions is eating and drinking and gambling and Netflix and shopping and our phones, right? What we're doing is we're using those to buffer our emotions. So that's something that we can start being aware of. And the healthiest way is to process an emotion, because there's no way to go around them. There's no way to avoid them. We got to just go right through those suckers. And so you can get in the habit right now. Something that you can do is start noticing your emotions. Like, where are they in your body? Where are they showing up for you? How are they feeling? Like, you want to describe it. And a lot of people, and this was me for sure, I was totally disconnected. I avoided and resisted and just hid and pushed down and shoved away all my emotions because, old school kind of was like, well, you can't get mad, you can't get upset, you can't cry, you can't do those things, right? So just push it away. But what would happen, it's not healthy. It's going to come out somewhere, right? We can even have ailments. So it's going to show up in back pain, right? It's going to show up, or hip pain.
Yeah.
And so you can notice, one, just start naming like, I'm angry, right? One of the best steps you can do is start acknowledging it, saying, I'm angry, and I can feel it. It's in my jaw. It's like super tight and it feels kind of hot and dense. And then you just put your energy on that and just breathe into it, right? And it will pass. It will eventually release and minimize and shrink. For the most part, most of them, it takes 60 to 90 seconds to process an emotion, like scientifically, right? But what happens is that we just keep repeating the thoughts that create the emotion, or we keep repeating the beliefs and the story that created the emotion in the first place. And then it just keeps coming back. So that's why I like to connect the two. Like, I'm angry that my ball's in a divot. I'm pissed off, and I'm going to stand over this ball because my ball's in a divot. I'm pissed off, and then I'm going to chunk it. Right. And I'm going to be more pissed off. And really what's happening is, you're angry. You can process that. But if you still have the belief that my ball shouldn't have been in a divot, you're going to struggle because you're arguing with reality. Your ball was in a divot, right? That's part of golf. Right. And so you suffer unnecessarily. So it's helpful to have the two. But one of the things that's really useful for people, because they can be so disconnected from their emotions, is just starting to name them. You can download a sheet of emotions. Most people, one of the things that is, a lot of people do, I shouldn't say most people, but a lot of people do, is they live in a little box of right around neutral, meaning like meh. So they only let themselves get a little bit happy. And because let's say they only let themselves get a little bit sad or upset. And because of that, they only let themselves get a little bit happy, because you can only have the contrast, the opposite of how deeply you'll go on either side, right? And your willingness to go there. So we end up living these very small lives of like limiting our experiences or limiting our emotions because people fear them. They're afraid of them. They're just vibrations and harmless in our body, right? So you're not able to really experience joy if you're not willing to experience despair. And so when we have despair, whatever you think the opposite of joy is, right? And so if you're not willing to experience despair and go like, this is just an emotion, I can process it, I know how to move through it, I'm not going to make it a big deal, I'm not going to create a story around it, then you get to have this beautiful other emotion that's a full life experience of having joy in your life. We get them all. But what happens is so many people just stay in this little box, right? They're just like, they try not to get too upset. And I do think golf breeds a little bit of that in us, because we think that we're not supposed to get upset, right? You sign up to play golf, you sign up to be disappointed, angry, have pressure, fear, anxiety. At the end of the round, you could be totally upset and shame yourself. Like, you sign up. If you don't think that that's a possibility, then you should not tee off, because for sure it's a possibility. So one should not be shocked that at the end of the round, you just had a really crappy score, or you finished with a quad and you're all disappointed, right? Being disappointed is not a problem. It's what you make disappointed mean about you that's the problem. It's the pain comes with the story that you tell yourself about why you had the quad. Like, I suck. I'm never going to be good enough. No, everybody's better than me. I'm never going to figure that. That hurts. Those words hurt, right? Being disappointed is not a problem. And so it's when we go about trying to avoid those emotions, right? Especially relative to competition, or it doesn't even have to be, just going to be club life, that we're going out there and saying, I'm not willing to be disappointed at the end of the round. You backhand, you're like, come on, golf game. Like, you need to show up today. And your golf game's not going to show up. It's too fragile to handle that much pressure.
I like that line. You signed up for this. I'm gonna steal that one for sure. It's good.
It's all yours. Yeah.
You mentioned that the 60 seconds for your brain to process. You have a couple podcasts, which again, can't recommend enough. Your podcast is a must follow. You recommended, or you have a couple on there. I've listened to them all. Yeah, I've got maybe like 20 or 30 of them in on neutral thoughts. That all thoughts are initially neutral. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah. I mean, you can think of it as that.
Maybe not all, but
Yeah, all thoughts aren't neutral, but you can get to neutral, and getting to neutral is a
sure.
very useful place. So in other words, let's say you have some negative thoughts. Let me think of something that I can go to neutral. I never finish well, right? You could get to, and you want to have the thought that I finish great. I'm a great I finish really well. I'm a strong finisher, however you want to phrase it. And I never finish well feels really hopeless and despair. Right. So you want to first pass through neutral. Like getting to neutral is okay. Sometimes I finish well. It's like, it's neutral. Like, okay, it's neither good nor bad, but it's also your brain can believe it. So it's okay. You got to pass through neutral on your way to positive. So anything I tell people, if you have a negative thought and something that you believe really strongly, sometimes we have to do these little ladder thoughts. I call them, like, we got to like baby step our brain out of them because it's too big of a leap. Like, for instance, I said to myself, a million times, I'm a great putter. When I played golf for a living, I must have said it, like, I'm not going to exaggerate, a million times, right? So positive affirmations. Yes, I'm going to do this. Right? I'm a great putter. My brain spit it out because my brain called BS on me, right? You're not. It was too big of a stretch. I wasn't there because my belief on that I was going to struggle with my putting was a 10 on a scale of 1 to 10. My belief that I'm a great putter was a 0. So I had no traction, right? So it was a waste of air. So I want to have that thought. I wanted to have that thought when I was playing, right? But what I had to do was I had to pass through neutral. And neutral was like, it's possible I could putt well today, right? Or sometimes I putt well. Okay. It's not despair and hopelessness. It's not super confident, but it's useful for me to get to neutral. We can do it about people too. I encourage people to make people neutral. So if you have somebody on the golf course who's super annoying to you, right, and they talk too much, and they're playing too slow, it doesn't mean that you to have that thought about them. Those things might be true, but if they are affecting your experience on the golf course, meaning they're in your head, so to speak, you're thinking
We've
about
all
them.
had a bad playing partner.
Yeah. They're bugging the crap out of you. You get to go to neutral with them. They're just a human. You don't have to like them, right? But it's not going to serve you to complain about them on the golf course. You can make a deal with yourself. I'll complain afterwards, but right now they're just a human doing the best they can. That's what they do, right? And it's neutral. It's neither good nor bad.
You just deal with it after?
You can deal with it after. You can't change people.
It away.
Yeah. One of the things is, well, on the golf course, I like to think sometimes your job is like, if you want to be angry, like you can tell yourself, I'll wait till 18 and I'll bitch and complain all I want about that shot. But right now I need to get back to being calm, certain, or confident before this next golf ball. And you make a deal with your brain, right? Like, I'll argue with it later. And usually when you get done, you're like over it, right? And so it serves you. And then you kind of break the pattern. But with people are a little bit more challenging for my clients or anybody, is because we want to argue that what they're doing, that you don't like them, right? Like what they're doing is wrong, that it's not right. But it's just, if you are creating a negative emotion for yourself while you're out there playing, it's not serving you, right? Because anytime, what I say is the goal for you playing to your potential is to figure out your best state to play in. It's like 2 steps. I tell people 2 very simple steps. So you want to figure out the best state to play in, not New Jersey or Florida or Indiana. I'm saying the best emotional state. And for most people, 99% of people, it's going to be calm, certain, or confident, right? Confidence isn't always available to us relative to our talent, our skill. Confidence is always available to you as self-confidence, but confident that I'm going to be able to get out of the bunker when I just shanked 3 in a row, we might not have confidence. So I tell people, when you have confidence, you want to ride that sucker out, but you can always create calm. You can create certainty in certain ways. Certainty, I call it certainty stacking. But so the reason that is a useful place for you to play golf from is because when that emotion is inside of your body, right? It's a vibration in your body. You can think clearly. You're up in the front part of your brain and you can swing freely. Your muscles are at a place, there's not a lot of tension in them. You're not squeezing the crap out of it, and you can swing freely. So any other emotion that doesn't allow you to think clearly and swing freely is getting in the way of your talent. So in other words, I'm angry. I'm just going to squeeze tighter. I have tension in my arms. I'm in the back part of my brain. This is where I make stupid mistakes and I'm not thinking clearly, right? And then I'm wondering why I didn't hit the shot that I hit on the range. 40 times in a row, right? So the goal is to move through that, not to avoid being angry or disappointed. That's not the problem. That's going to happen in golf. The point is that you want to move through that and get back to calm. I mean, because we can have 7 emotions on one hole, right?
Yeah.
So that's not the problem. So most people who don't know how to do that, like, which is 90% of the people on the planet, aren't taught how to manage their emotions and process their thoughts and think on purpose. Golf becomes very challenging.
Sure. For someone that definitely struggles with the negative thinking, both on and off the golf courses, your program and your book cover a little bit of that. I know you've touched on it on some of the podcasts I've listened.
Yes. Yes.
Any steps to, what are some best steps if once you're self-aware and you've identified maybe, wow, I'm definitely a little bit on the negative side.
Okay, so the negativity can be a habit. So what happens is that the more you are negative, the more you kind of just keep this pattern of being negative. Our brains too are naturally a bit negative. So we're fighting our own negativity in our brain. And the reason our brain is negative is because it's designed to scan the universe for different ways that we're going to die as a species. Okay, so it is designed to scan and look for how we're going to run out of food, or how we're going to get kicked out of the tribe, or how we might get eaten by a saber-toothed tiger, right? So it's like, don't forget to look behind the tree, don't mess up and not get the food, and don't do all these things, right? So it's constantly looking for different ways to protect you, to keep you alive, right? So on the golf course, we don't have to worry about those things. But today's day and age, our brain still thinks and perceives social pain or emotional pain as if it was a saber-toothed tiger and you're going to die as a species, right? So it creates a lot of negativity. So it would sound like on the range, there's no danger. Hit it wherever the hell you want, right? It doesn't matter. There's no repercussions. Nobody's adding up your score. Go to the first tee. Don't hit in the water. Don't hit in the bunker. Watch out for, don't make a 6. Make sure you get off to a good start. Do all the things now in your head that the coach taught you to do. All of a sudden we create this anxiety because we have this fear that comes up for us about, what it's going to mean if we make a 6, what it's going to mean if we don't win, what it's going to mean if we have a bad number. And so our brain's like, well, that's a big deal to you, right? So because that's a big deal to you, obviously you feel like you're in danger. And let me just scan all the ways that you can get in trouble. And so we create this negativity, this negative thinking. And then it becomes a little bit of a habit, right? Especially if you're hanging around negative people, we start doing a little bit of group talking, right? Going, yeah, it did suck. Yeah. Next thing you know, you're complaining that the beverage cart didn't show up for 3 holes, right? And everybody's ticked off, right? So if you have a negative thought, it's not a problem, right? And so what people are trying to do is, I don't want to think negatively. And you are. And the thing is you just want to acknowledge it, right? So you just want to go, okay, I heard that, but I want to think this instead, right? So, don't go in the bunker. Okay, I don't want to go in the bunker, but where do I want to go? Okay, that's where I want to go. I want to put my attention to the middle of the fairway, or left side of the fairway. And I know my brain's going to call attention to the bunker, and I just got to break the habit. I got to just steer it over towards the middle of the fairway, right? And this is where self-awareness is so important, because I call thoughts, I'm very visual. So, and I had a hamster cage growing up. So the hamster cage is terrifying, right? So when I started thinking about, just as far, because we didn't know what the heck we were doing. And next thing you know, we had 100 hamsters. And so our thoughts can be like that, like a hamster cage. And so sometimes they're all sleeping, like the hamsters in the morning, they all be sleeping, right? And when I go and check on the cage as a kid, and those are the days that I say to people, those are your green light days. Those are the days where you're like, my brain was quiet, right? It was so easy. I want that all the time. And that's when we have our favorite group, and we love the tea time, and it's 74 degrees and everything's just perfect and nothing's going wrong. And my brain's super quiet. And then what happens when we go and play golf is we shake our hamster cage and we wake up all the thoughts, meaning we freak ourselves out in some way. We make it a big deal. We make something a big deal. That the ball went in the bunker, we make it a big deal. Now your brain's like, whoa, there's a problem. Let me just wake up all the hamsters, right? And now they're running all over the place, these thoughts, right? And now you feel like it's going to take a lot of energy to quiet them back down, and it will. And so that's why I tell people, don't shake your hamster cage. There's no reason to unnecessarily shake your hamster cage. I love the story. My brother, his name's Dudley Hart. He played on the tour for a long time. And he tells a story of playing in the British Open, and his son came over to caddy for him. And there was a dog leg. I can't remember the golf course because people ask me this all the time. I'll find out. I'll text him after this call. There's a dog like Wright, and he already played a practice round because his son was playing in a tournament and came over late. And my brother took out an iron and it was going to hit straight away. And his son's like, Dad, just cut the corner. You can cut the corner and get in. Have like a flip wedge into what are you doing? Like, why are you hitting an iron to the straight away? He said, Ryan, I'm hitting an iron off this tee. And he would argue with him, like he was arguing with him on his tee box. No, just like, it's such an easy shot. Just go down there. And he said, Ryan, if I hit it in one of those little pot bunkers that are about 50 or 60 yards short of this green, I will go over and lay myself on that railroad track and wait for a train to come by. Right. So, because what that would do is that would shake his hamster cage. He'd be so ticked off that on the next tee, right, he's going to have to deal with that the rest of the round. That was him thinking about yourself, but also he was preventing shaking his hamster cage unnecessarily. Right. So that's one example where we do that.
Interesting. Well, it's definitely want me. I'm going to start your book tonight. It's like got me all fired up to read it. I'm going to plug all your obviously all your information on the show notes. But where can people listen? Where can people find more about you?
Yeah, you can go to my website, which is kathyhartwood.com. You can follow me on Instagram, which is also the same, Kathy Hartwood. And I encourage you to listen to my podcast. There's so much free content in there that you can scan over 200 episodes at Think Above Par. Yeah,
the podcasts are really great because, like I said, they're 10, 15 minutes. They're perfect. Listen to a couple. It's they're fantastic. I definitely want to have you back on if you're up for it. I got to I covered maybe 2 of my 10. We would get.
I get so excited. I get talking really fast, everything. So I probably went off on tangents. So yeah.
No, I love it. It makes it easy for me, and it's really good. Really thorough answers, and yeah, you just got me started with all the questions I wanted to ask, especially with the whole golf being a reflection of life. Really, you get better at some of the life stuff off the golf course, and all of a sudden your golf game gets significantly better.
All right, my friends, there you have it. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Kelvin, maybe learn some more things about the mental side of golf. And if I can help you or support you in any way, make sure you reach out to me at kathyhartwood.com. Have a beautiful week, and I'll talk to you next Wednesday. Bye.